So in our last video, we installed the slideshow section. So in this video, we're going to start working on this particular section, the lessons unsupported by CPN and NDIC. So let's see how to do something like that. So we're going to create a section. Then inside the particular section, we're going to create a div that is going to house the license unsupported by. So this is an image. These three are images. So we have already learned how to insert image on the web page, for instance. So now let's go back to our code editor and start writing. Okay. So then let's quickly go back to our index.html. So we're done with the slideshow section. So let's minimize it. So the next one we'll be working is this is going to be a section. So we're going to call it the page section because it's going to house a lot of divs inside. So let's call it page section. So let's comment it. Okay. So let's see, we're going to give it an ID attribute. So let's call it page section. Page section. So inside it, let's start creating our divs, for instance. So the first div that we'll be having is for the license regulators. So let's give the comment license and regulators. Okay, that's the first div. So let's create a div. Okay, so inside the particular div, it's going to contain the license unsupported by. Also, we're going to use a spam element. So let's write it license and supported by. Okay, so let's keep it like this. So the next spam is going to contain the images of the CBN, the NIPS and the NDIC image. So spam element. So inside the spam element, so let's use the IMG element. So I'm going to start with the first image, the CBN image. So CBN image. Say CBN icon. And the next one, IMG. So for the NIPSI icon. And lastly for the NDIC icon. So NDIC icon. Okay, so now let's save it. So let's go back to the browser and refresh to see the effect. So let's scroll down. So we see we have something like this. So we're going to give the page section a background of white. So let's go back to our standard CSS. So this particular section, so we are going to change the background to white. So now let's go back to standard CSS. Okay, so this £sign. So background color. So let's say white. So now let's save it. So let's go back to the browser and refresh to see. You see we have something like this. So if you can look at the browser, you see there is some spacing from you see the white background is not starting from the beginning of the page. There's some little spacing here. So just like how we mentioned earlier, some elements have default margin and padding. So if you don't want such behavior, so within the body element, let's scroll up. Within the body element, within the body CSS property, so you can say margin. So let's say 0 pixel. We don't want any default margin and we don't want any default padding. So let's just set them to 0 pixel. So now let's go back. So let's refresh. You see now everything is starting at the center of the page now. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to work on is to add the CSS styling for this particular license div. Okay, so now let's give it an ID. This particular div for the license. So let's see, give it an ID. Let's call it license div. Okay, so now let's copy it. So inside our style.css, so now we are going to add the CSS property. Okay, so let's come up here and write it. Okay, since it is an ID selector, then the value. So we're going to give it some padding. I'm going to give it padding top and bottom 2% and left or right 0 pixel. Okay, so the next thing we are going to make it, we are going to center it just like how we learned in our previous video. So we are going to set this display to be flex and justify content center. So we content center, and we want everything to be aligned at the center. See align items center. Okay, so now let's save it. So let's go back to the browser and refresh and see. We see we have something like this. Okay, so now let's quickly make these particular, let's make them bold and change the color. So let's say the color we want to use 858.178. So then I'm going to use this color. Then the font width is font width. So let me say bold. Okay, let me use bold for instance. So let's save it. So let's back to the browser and refresh. See, we have something like this. Okay, so in our next video we are going to continue working because the video has been long. So to meet in the next video.